Hello, hello, hello. I'm Melanie Little, and welcome back to my channel. If you are one of my returning subscribers, thank you so much for helping me launch my own channel. I have put out only 2 videos so far. This is number 3, and I love reading your comments, and I really appreciate all your support. So thank you. If you are joining me today for the first time, welcome. And I'm assuming you're here because you want to hear about Taylor Swift. So before we get to that, if you wouldn't mind just hitting the bell below, the subscribe button and the like button, that really helps the YouTube algorithm and it helps the video get pushed out to more people who might want to see it. So thank you for that as well. A little about me. I'm coming to you with 30 years of experience practicing law in New York. I am also a legal commentator and analyst. I'm a mother of 5, and I'm also a huge music lover. I grew up listening to music all the time. My parents were huge music fans, so they always had the stereo going back in the day with those crackly speakers. And they played everything from Neil Diamond to Elton John, Carly Simon, Carole King, Leonard Cohen on repeat constantly. And my mom even slept out for Neil Diamond tickets when I was a kid. Fun fact. So obviously that gave me a love of music. And since I was a little bit of a rebel, I went a different way with my musical tastes. Although I do still appreciate those other artists that I just mentioned, I became a Deadhead. And I started following the Grateful Dead around when I was about 13 years old. That was my first concert at Nassau Coliseum in New York. And I've been doing it ever since. I even went to college in Boulder because that was a cool hippie town and it was close to Red Rocks. And some of the best concerts that I ever saw were at Red Rocks. So go Buffs. I also have some experience in the entertainment industry. I'm a working actor. I am also an entertainment attorney of sorts. I work on contracts for musicians, athletes, and comedians and actors. And although I'm not taking on clients anymore, I have a lot of experience in the law. I'm a litigator, I'm a trial lawyer, etc. So I mentioned I'm a mother of 5. And so because I was so interested in music, in fact, 2 of my kids are actually named after Grateful Dead songs. That's how crazy it is. I always imparted a love of music to my children. And my youngest 3 are teenage girls now, and they have been listening to Taylor Swift since practically they were born. And I didn't really censor their taste in music, but I sort of wanted them to listen to something that wasn't dirty, filthy, with curse words in it. And they kind of gravitated towards Taylor Swift, and that was fine with me. So we've been listening to it in the car for years and years and years. And this week in our house was a big deal because it was the drop of Speak Now, Taylor's version. I'm still sort of like recovering from the launch party that we had on 7/7, because that's when it was released, on 7/7 at midnight. So my voice is a little hoarse and I may look a little tired, but you know, I'm getting old, so it takes a bit to recover. So anyway, I thought it would be fun to do a show about why Taylor is doing this, why she's re-recording her own music. What is the significance of this from a legal standpoint, from an industry standpoint? Because I think a lot of people are wondering who aren't huge Taylor Swift fans. And if you are one, then I think you probably know why she's doing this. But if you're not, it's sort of like, all right, what's the big deal? Well, we're going to get into that. Taylor Swift has done something unprecedented in the history of music, and she has chosen to re-record her old albums, mimicking almost the style and the voice that she had when she recorded them so many years ago. And by doing that, it's a pretty genius move. She's outsmarted industry execs, and I think they're kind of scratching their heads, and they're going to be changing the industry going forward for artists. And we're going to get into what all of that means. And also, what is it that Taylor Swift can teach our kids with regard to standing up to bullies, standing your ground, regaining your power, and being a savvy business person, even though she started out when she was just 15 years old. So everyone's talking about what their favorite song is on the new album. And my favorite is Long Live. And I just want to show you a little clip of the lyric video that was released the other day because it's really special to me. And I think you'll see why when you watch the video. Oh, I had to turn that off because I'm just starting to get verklempt. And I don't do reaction videos, and that's probably why, because it would just, I would get too emotional. But I do have a good friend who does reaction videos. Her name is Meredith, and her channel is called Men with Mare. And she does amazing reaction videos from a therapist's point of view. She's a therapist, and she's done a lot of Taylor videos, and she does Lana Del Rey. She put out one the other day on an Ethel Cain song that was amazing. So I'm going to link her channel below in case you're interested, and you can check out Meredith's videos. So before we get into all that, I want to show you a clip of Taylor Swift when she was 15 years old, or maybe she was even 14 years old during this clip. Taylor Swift grew up on a Christmas tree farm in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, and her dad was a VP at Merrill Lynch. Her mom was an advertising exec, and they actually named her Taylor because her mom felt that when she got older, Taylor was sort of an androgynous name. And if people saw Taylor Swift on a business card, they wouldn't know if she was a man or a woman. And that would help her in business by people not discriminating against her as a woman in the business world. And I think that's kind of cool. In 2003, her parents moved the entire family down to a suburb of Nashville because Taylor wanted to be a country music star. They didn't move into Nashville proper because they didn't want Taylor going to school with music industry execs, kids, and they didn't really want her in the thick of things just in case it didn't work out for her. She had these big dreams when she was 11 years old. And her mom would drive into Nashville to what is known as Music Row. And at 11 years old, she made a demo tape of her singing karaoke. And her mom and her little brother would wait in the car, and she would go and she would knock on doors in Music Row and say, "Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm 11. I want a record deal," and hand them her karaoke demo. Call me. She started writing songs when she was 12 out of loneliness, she said, and because she wasn't invited to sleepovers and things with other kids. So she turned her loneliness into an incredible, incredible art form. Let's take a look at a little clip when she was 15 years old. And this is from a local Nashville station, ran a story on her back in 2005.
We visited Taylor a year ago at Hendersonville High when we thought her talent was special. Now, a year later, Music Row agrees. Her first record comes out in a few months. She'll tour and start the career she says she's been working for her entire life, all 15 years of it.
Most people find out what they're going to do when they're in college, and that's great, you know? But I guess for me, it just came a little earlier, and I'm so thankful for that because this happens to be a dream come true for me.
A dream that comes with her own soundtrack. On a Throwback Thursday, Terry Bolger, News 4 Nashville.
So cute. She's so little, right? It's crazy to see her when she's that little. So finally, Taylor's knocking on doors paid off because in 2005, when she was 15 years old, she signed her first record deal. She signed a deal with Big Machine Records in 2005. And obviously she was young. She was unknown. There was an imbalance of power there. And she signed a 13-year deal with Big Machine Records. Big Machine Records was owned by a guy named Scott Borchetta. So there was obviously an imbalance of power there, even though her parents were savvy and I'm sure they had lawyers. It was kind of like, hey, nobody knows if Taylor's going to become famous or not. So whatever, we'll just sign and see what happens, right? So in exchange for a cash advance, Big Machine owned the Taylor Swift music catalog, which consisted of what turned out to be her first 6 albums during that 13-year contract period. Taylor Swift was her first album, self-titled, which was released in 2006. Fearless was released in 2008. Speak Now came out in 2010, Red in 2012, 1989 in 2014, and ending with Reputation in 2017. So in order to understand why she's re-recording her music, we need to dig a little bit into US copyright law. So traditionally, record companies have owned an artist's masters. And in US copyright law, there are 2 distinct types of music ownership. The first is the master. So the master recording is the first sound recording of a song from which all copies are made for sale and distribution. So anything that is on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, CDs, vinyl, the owner of the master retains the right to monetize that specific recording, regardless of who wrote the song. So anybody who wants to make a copy of that recording or license a copy of that recording has to ask permission from the master owner and pay them a fee in order to use it. So, for example, if somebody wanted to license the song Bad Blood, which is still owned by Big Machine Records, by the way, so that they could put it on a TV show or in a movie or in a commercial, they need to get the master owner's permission. The second distinct type of music ownership are the publishing rights. So the publishing rights include the lyrics, the sheet music, the melodies, and the credited songwriter typically owns the publishing rights. So while the sale and distribution rights of the master recordings remain with her record label, which at the time was Big Machine, Taylor retained the publishing rights of all 6 albums as the songwriter of those songs. So after her contract with Big Machine expired in 2018, and as the owner of the publishing rights, Taylor was entitled to re-record those 6 albums after a certain period of time, as specified in her contract. And by doing that, she is creating her own masters that only she would own. So, in essence, this is not only devaluing the original masters, but now she's going to have control over all of the commercial licensing of the new versions, which are in parentheses after the album called Taylor's version. So anyone who's a huge Taylor fan knows that when they go on Spotify or they go on Apple Music or wherever they stream their music from, they stream Taylor's version because they want Taylor to get the royalties from that, not the original version, which still is owned by the owner of her original masters. So what in essence she has done is bypass the patriarchy. And she's been very vocal about this throughout her career. And under the terms of her contract, which was pretty standard in the industry back then when she signed this, her contract stated that she could not re-record her work until 5 years after her last delivered master recording of a song, or 2 years after the end of the contract term, whichever is later. So in her case, she could start re-recording some of her music in November of 2020. So this was pretty groundbreaking because it's really never been done before that a recording artist would re-record the original version of their song. Prince, some of you are saying, who's Prince? Prince, who was an amazing artist in the 80s, 90s. He did try to re-record his hit 1999 because he wanted to get the rights back. But back at the time that he did that in the 90s, it was more difficult because customers who wanted to support Prince and his re-recording had to actually go out and physically buy the album or buy the single. There was no streaming. It wasn't as easy as just clicking a button. It required, more money and more time on behalf of the buyer. So it didn't really work out for him. But by doing this, Taylor is getting her power back, and she's getting back ownership of her music, which she has been very vocal about. So in the fall of 2018, Taylor moved to Republic Records, which at the time and may still be owned by Universal Music Group. But one of the conditions of her move was that she required a clause in her contract that going forward, she would own her own masters, meaning that she would have sole say of how and when her music was used. But that deal only applied to her new material because her original 6 albums were still owned by Big Machine. So starting with her album Lover, which came out in 2019, Folklore in July 2020, Evermore in 2020 also. Wow, 2 albums in 2020, Midnights in 2022. She owns the rights to the masters of those 4 albums, including the re-recordings, which we're going to talk about. So in June of 2019, Big Machine announces that it has sold its record label to a guy named Scooter Braun for what we now know was a $330 million deal, of which Taylor's original masters were valued at about $140 million. Scooter Braun is a music manager who managed Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Kanye West, and Scooter Braun was also probably Taylor Swift's biggest nemesis. He was an enemy. She had accused him of bullying her in the past, and she was outraged by his acquisition of her masters because she did not want anything to do with him. She posted on Tumblr back in June of 2019 her outrage. And this is what she wrote. For years, I asked, pleaded for a chance to own my own work. Instead, I was given an opportunity to sign back up to Big Machine Records and earn 1 album back at a time, 1 for every new one I turned in. I walked away because I knew once I signed that contract, Scott Borchetta would sell the label, thereby selling me and my future. I had to make the excruciating choice to leave behind my past. Music I wrote on my bedroom floor and videos I dreamed up and paid for from the money I earned playing in bars, then clubs, then arenas, then stadiums. Some fun facts about today's news. I learned about Scooter Braun's purchase of my masters as it was announced to the world. All I could think about was the incessive, manipulative bullying I've received at his hands for years. Like when Kim Kardashian orchestrated an illegally recorded snippet of a phone call to be leaked, and then Scooter got his 2 clients together to bully me online about it. See photo. She's referring to this photo up here, which is a post by Justin Bieber. It's Justin Bieber, Kanye, and Scooter. And she says, this is Scooter Braun bullying me on social media when I was at my lowest point. He's about to own all the music I've ever made. It's a very heartfelt post, as you can see. Or when his client Kanye West organized a revenge porn music video, which strips my body naked. Now Scooter has stripped me of my life's work that I wasn't given an opportunity to buy. Essentially, my musical legacy is about to lie in the hands of someone who tried to dismantle it. This is my worst case scenario. This is what happens when you sign a deal at 15 to someone for whom the term loyalty is clearly just a contractual concept. And when that man says music has value, he means its value is beholden to men who had no part in creating it. That's what she's referring to Scott Borchetta in that portion. When I left my masters in Scott's hands, I made peace with the fact that eventually he would sell them. Never in my worst nightmares did I imagine the buyer would be Scooter. At any time Scott Borchetta has heard the words Scooter Braun escape my lips, it was when I was either crying or trying not to. It's horrible. He knew what he was doing. They both did. Controlling a woman who didn't want to be associated with them in perpetuity. That means forever. Thankfully, I'm now signed to a label that believes I should own anything I create. Thankfully, I left my past in Scott's hands and not my future. And hopefully, young artists or kids with musical dreams will read this and learn about how to better protect themselves in a negotiation. You deserve to own the art you make. I will always be proud of my past work, but for a healthier option, Lover will be out on August 23rd. Sad and grossed out with a broken heart emoji, Taylor. So that was a really big deal to her, obviously, because now her art, her property was owned by someone that she absolutely felt bullied by. And what a horrible feeling. It is reported, and her attorney stated, Don Passman, who's a very experienced Beverly Hills entertainment lawyer, is quoted as saying, Scott Borchetta never gave Taylor Swift an opportunity to purchase her masters or the label outright with a check in the way he is now apparently doing for others. So that indicates that she tried to buy her masters back, which were valued at about $140 million in this deal to Scooter Braun, and she was refused. In fact, she says that she was offered a deal, but she had to earn her records back one at a time as she put out new music, which seems to me to be a little bit gross. It's noted that Bieber did sort of make some weird pseudo apology after this on Instagram while he stuck up for his manager, Scooter Braun. And in his post, which is dated June 30th of 2019, wow, a lot went down on this day because all of this went down on the same day. He posts a picture with Taylor. Wow, it's amazing how much taller she is. Hey, Taylor. First of all, I would like to apologize for posting that hurtful Instagram post. At the time, I thought it was funny, but looking back, it was distasteful and insensitive. I have to be honest, though, it was my caption and post that I screenshotted of Scooter and Kanye that said, Taylor Swift, what up? He didn't have anything to do with it, and it wasn't even a part of the conversation at all. Actuality, he was the person who told me not to joke like that. So you see, he's obviously sticking up for Scooter. I don't know if he asked him to do that or what, but Scooter had your back since the days you graciously let me open up for you. As the years have passed, we haven't crossed paths and gotten to communicate our differences, hurts, or frustrations. So for you to take it to social media and get people to hate on Scooter isn't fair. What were you trying to accomplish by posting that blog? Seems to me like it was to get sympathy. You also knew that in posting that, your fans would go and bully Scooter. Anyway, one thing I know is both Scooter and I love you. I feel like the only way to resolve conflict is through communication. So banter back and forth online, I don't believe solves anything. I'm sure Scooter and I would love to talk to you and resolve any conflict or pain or any feelings that need to be addressed. Neither Scooter or I have anything negative to say about you. We truly want the best for you. I usually don't rebuttal things like this, but when you try and deface someone I love's character, that's crossing a line. Okay, and the grammar is not 100% correct, but I think you know what he's getting out here. And if he really wanted to apologize to her, why didn't he just pick up the phone and apologize to her? There really wasn't any reason for him to publicly do exactly what he was accusing her of doing. And in doing so, it was sort of a backhanded apology anyway, because really what he was doing is sticking up for Scooter. So in August of 2019, after the sale of her masters to Scooter Braun, she publicly declared that she intended to re-record her first 6 albums when she was contractually allowed to do so. And she announced it on Good Morning America. I'm going to play right now.
I mean, one thing about this album that's really special to me is that it's the first one that I will own of my work. which is a concept that they're very supportive of.
Right. I was going to wait to ask you about that, but since you went there, this is something that is very important to you. And you've also said that you're planning on re-recording some of your music. Is that true? Wait a minute. Are you going to do that?
Yeah, that's true. And it's something that I'm very excited about doing because my contract says that starting November 2020, so next year, I can record albums 1 through 5 all over again. So
And you'll do that.
I'm very excited about it because
Why is this so important to you?
I just think that artists deserve to own their work. I just feel very passionately about that.
Yeah. And you can see that they do as well. So you'll be doing that soon. So soon will be doing the re-recording.
Yeah, it's next year. It's right around the corner. I'm going to be busy. I'm really excited.
And you can see how excited her fans were about that too. It's reported that hundreds of people slept out in order to get a chance to go to that outdoor performance in New York City of Good Morning America. And Taylor ordered pizzas to be delivered to the lines of fans outside of New York City Central Park. And they were handed out by her dad and other members of her team. So she's really an artist who really cares about her fans, and her fans are very loyal to her. And I think that's what part of Justin Bieber was referring to, that perhaps a lot of her fans took to online bullying against Scooter, which is ironic considering that she has accused him of bullying her. And there's so much to this story that I think I'm going to have to do a part 2 to this video to talk about how she has stood up to bullies like Scooter Braun, like Kanye, like Apple Music, like Spotify, because she has really stood up for artists in ways that really no other artist in history has ever done. And it has changed the music industry tremendously. Now, in November of 2019, Taylor was to be awarded the Artist of the Decade award at the American Music Awards, or the AMAs. And Netflix was also producing a documentary about her called Miss Americana. So in early November or mid-November, her team was notified by Big Machine Records and Scooter Braun that Taylor would not be allowed to perform any of her music from her first 6 albums at the AMAs when receiving the Artist of the Decade award, or in the Netflix documentary. The reason for that is that both of these events were to be recorded. So you need permission from the master's owner, and the master's owner was Scooter, and Scooter said no. So Taylor didn't know what else to do. She took to Twitter, as a lot of celebrities often do. And I'm going to show you a copy of her tweet that was posted on November 14th of 2019. And it says, "Don't know what else to do. Guys, it's been announced recently that the American Music Awards will be honoring me with the Artist of the Decade award at this year's ceremony. I've been planning to perform a medley of my hits throughout the decade on the show. Scott Borchetta and Scooter Braun have now said that I'm not allowed to perform my old songs on television because they claim that would be re-recording my music before I'm allowed to next year. Additionally, and this isn't the way that I had planned on telling you this, Netflix has created a documentary about my life for the past few years. Scott and Scooter have declined the use of my older music or performance footage for this project, even though there is no mention of either of them or Big Machine Records anywhere in the film. Scott Borchetta told my team that they'll allow me to use my music only if I do these things. If I agree to not re-record copycat versions of my songs next year, which is something I'm both legally allowed to do and looking forward to. And you remember in August, she had already announced that she planned to do that. So now it's like they want a quid pro quo. They want her to agree not to do that in order for her to be allowed to perform a medley of her hits in the Artist of the Decade award, which by all rights, they're probably entitled to refuse under the contract. It's just kind of a slimy thing to do. And also told my team that I need to stop talking about him and Scooter Braun. I think they wanted her to sign an NDA that she would not disparage either one of them. And maybe it was mutual. They would not disparage her. I'm not sure. I haven't seen a copy of it. I feel very strongly that sharing what is happening to me could change the awareness level for other artists and potentially help them avoid a similar fate. The message being sent to me is very clear. Basically, be a good little girl and shut up, or you'll be punished. This is wrong. Neither of these men had a hand in the writing of those songs. They did nothing to create the relationship I have with my fans. So this is where I'm asking for your help. Please let Scott Borchetta and Scooter Braun know how you feel about this. Scooter also manages several artists who I really believe care about other artists and their work. Please ask them for help with this. I'm hoping that maybe they can talk some sense into the men who are exercising tyrannical control over someone who just wants to play the music she wrote. I'm especially asking for help from the Carlisle group, who put up money for the sale of my music to these two men. I just want to be able to perform my own music. That's it. I've tried to work this out privately through my team, but have not been able to resolve anything. Right now, my performance at the AMAs, the Netflix documentary, and any other recorded events I am planning to play until November 2020 are a question mark. I love you guys, and I thought you should know what's been going on. Taylor. It was because of this tweet and public outcry that eventually, or well, not eventually, it had to be pretty quickly, because she tweeted that on November 14th, and the AMAs were held on November 24th. So there was only a 10-day period. Here's a clip of Carole King introducing Taylor as Artist of the Decade in the 2019 AMAs.
To present the American Music Artist of the Decade Award to Taylor Swift.
There's her mom and her dad.
You guys, first of all, I want to say that getting to share the stage with Misty Copeland and Craig Hall and Camila Cabello and Halsey and all those amazing dancers tonight was absolutely, in so many ways, a dream come true. And so that performance was even more fun than I hoped it would be. Oh my God. I cannot believe that that it's Carole King, it's you, who gave me this award. So when my parents are here tonight. They're and they would listen to Tapestry and all your other records in high school, and then they took those records with them, packed them up in boxes, took them to college with them. Then when they met and they got their own house, they took those records with them there. And then when they had my brother and I, they played those records for us. And I just remembered when I fell in love with music, it was right around the time I realized that how marvelous it was that an artist could transcend so many different phases and changes in people's lives. So you taught me that that's a possibility. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that any of the artists, or really anyone in this room, wants is to create something that will last, whatever it is in life. And the fact that this is an award that celebrates a decade of hard work and of art and of fun and memories, all that matters to me is the memories that I have had with you guys, with you, the fans, over the years. Guys, we've had fun, incredible, exhilarating, extraordinary times together, and may it continue. Thank you for being the reason why I am on this stage from the very first day of my career until tonight. I love you with all of my heart. Thank you for everything. Thank you, AMAs. Thank you. Just thank you. I'm so lucky to get to do this. Thank you.
So there you go. One icon presenting an award to another. And since we're here and talking about the AMAs, I thought I'd play a little clip of her performance from that show. Notice how her shirt has the album titles from her first 6 albums, and she's singing about If I Were a Man. Little dig to Scooter Braun there. I got to stop it there because it goes on for about 12 minutes, but it is a pretty amazing performance if you want to check it out. I will also put that link below in the description. Interestingly enough, in December of 2019, Taylor was also honored with the Woman of the Decade Award at Billboard's Women in Music Awards in Hollywood. And she talks about the scrutiny she's faced as a woman in the music business, and ironically, how difficult the last decade had been for her. And she's not wrong. She has been criticized at every turn. She has been shut down at every turn. She has been bullied. She has been trying to change herself to fit into some idea of what the music industry wanted her to be. And I think now that she's 34 years old, she has decided that it was time to take her power back. And that's exactly what she's doing by re-recording all of her old albums and gaining control over her own masters. In October 2020, ironically, which is about 18 months since Scooter Braun bought Big Machine Records, he turned around and sold Taylor Swift's masters to a different buyer for a total of a deal that would have been eventually worth $405 million, because part of it was not payable until 2023. So that deal was worth a lot of money to him. He made a great profit on it. And it included not only her recordings, but also her videos, her album art. And he retained some piece of future royalties. So when that deal was happening, Taylor, again, tried to enter into a new deal with the new owner, Shamrock Holdings. And she explained, again, in a tweet to her fans, why she couldn't continue to do business with Shamrock Holdings. And it was because they were still going to pay Scooter Braun in the future. And she just couldn't be involved in that. Once again, she had tried to purchase her masters back with a cash deal, but she was told that that was not possible. In October of 2020, she explained herself to her fans in this tweet. I wanted to check in and update you guys. As you know, for the past year, I've been actively trying to regain ownership of my master recordings. With that goal in mind, my team attempted to enter into negotiations with Scooter Braun. Scooter's team wanted me to sign an ironclad NDA stating that I would never say another word about Scooter Braun unless it was positive. Before we could even look at the financial records of BMLG, which is always the first step in a purchase of this nature, and she's right about that. So I would have to sign a document that would silence me forever before I could even have a chance to bid on my own work. My legal team said that this is absolutely not normal, and they've never seen an NDA like this presented unless it was to silence an assault accuser by paying them off. An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. He would never even quote my team a price. These master recordings were not for sale to me. A few weeks ago, my team received a letter from a private equity company called Shamrock Holdings, letting us know that they had bought 100% of my music, videos, and album art from Scooter Braun. This was the second time my music had been sold without my knowledge. The letter told me that they wanted to reach out to me before the sale to let me know, but that Scooter Braun had required that they make no contact with me or my team, or the deal would be off. As soon as we started communication with Shamrock, I learned that under their terms, Scooter Braun will continue to profit off of my old master catalog for many years. I was hopeful and open to the possibility of a partnership with Shamrock, but Scooter's participation is a non-starter for me. I've recently begun re-recording my older music, and it is already proven to be both exciting and creatively fulfilling. I have plenty of surprises in store. I want to thank you guys for supporting me through this ongoing saga, and I can't wait for you to hear what I've been dreaming up. I love you guys, and I'm just going to keep cruising, as they say, Taylor. P.S. For transparency and clarification, I've included the letter of response I sent on October 28th, 2020 to the private equity group who purchased my music. Here is a copy of that letter. I'm not going to read it to you, but you can certainly freeze the screen and read it if you'd like. Fast forward to November of 2021, and Taylor Swift is on the Seth Meyers show, and she explains to him why she is re-recording Red. So let's take a look at that.
So part of the emotion is you're singing songs from, you're re-recording. This is your second re-record.
Yes, I feel like I know that everybody has busy lives. So I do feel the need to like explain what I'm doing because it's not normal.
Yeah.
Basically, like music, I've always wanted to own my own music since I
Sure.
started making my music. And if you probably don't know this, but most of your favorite artists do not own their work. The music industry is, certain corners of it. But I think that there was something that happened years ago where I made it very clear that I wanted to be able to buy my music. That opportunity was not given to me, and it was sold to somebody else. And so I just figured I was the one who made this music first. I can just make it again.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing.
I have to say.
So that's what we're doing. So when something says in parentheses Taylor's version next to it, that means I own it, which is exciting.
It's quite a clever loophole, Taylor. I really tip my cap.
Thank you. It's,
Yes, it is quite a clever loophole. And she is really a very business savvy genius in her decision to do this, because her re-recordings have outsold her prior recordings, and it's really going to go down in history as probably one of the most genius moves in the recording industry ever, not just by a woman, but by any artist. And also, fun fact, due to the success of Taylor's versions of her albums, a bunch of record labels and producers and managers in the industry are now adding what they are calling a Taylor clause into their new contracts to stop artists from possibly re-recording their music in the future so that they can own it. For example, Universal Music Group in November of 2021, in a direct response to what Taylor is actually doing now by re-recording, has modified its contracts to extend the time that an artist can re-record their music from 5 years to 7 years after their last recording, or to 5 years after the expiration of their contract, as opposed to 2 years, which was industry standard prior to this event, whichever is later. In fact, I think some companies are trying to own artists' masters in perpetuity, which means forever. So for anybody who is an artist who's signing contracts out there, make sure you have a very, very good lawyer to look over your contracts before you potentially sign your rights away to the label forever. Well, I am out of time, but I hope I've explained things to you in a way that you can understand them. I hope that I have shown you how Taylor Swift is changing the music industry, how her unprecedented move to re-record her own music has outsmarted industry executives, and how she's teaching our kids to really take their power back, and how she's taken her own power back, and how she has stood up to people who have bullied her by going around them and still being able to own her own music again. I have so much more to say about this because I fell into such a rabbit hole investigating this whole idea of her re-recordings and doing a deeper dive into Taylor Swift and her life and her career. And there's so much more to tell, including how she took on Apple Music, how she took on Spotify, the incident with Kanye, and how he released a video with a naked likeness of her that turned into a big scandal, let's say, and how she got her power back through all of these things, and how she stood up for artists also with Ticketmaster. So if you'd like to see another video following up on this Taylor industry speak and industry talk and all about Taylor, leave some comments below and let me know. I love to open up dialogue and debate in the comments, and I love to read your comments and I love to respond to them, but please be respectful in the comments to me and to each other. No personal attacks, no foul language. Otherwise, your comments will be deleted. You've been warned. Okay. That's it for me today. I hope everyone has a great week. Thanks.